Welcome back. In this lecture, we'll try to understand concept of pressure group. Right, we have finished with respect to party system, and we'll start with pressure groups. What are pressure groups? What are the theories with respect to pressure groups? Right. According to structural functional approach of Almond, Gabriel Almond, and Powell, what is the function that pressure group performs? It is interest articulation. Right. Interest articulation. So, what is the function of articulation? What is the function of pressure groups? Interest articulation, collective mobilization, or they can be political socialization, instrument of political socialization as well. Right. So, what are pressure groups? Pressure groups, groups which apply pressure on government to get its demands done, right? To get its demand fulfilled. Pressure groups, right? A group of people who act in concert to get their demands met. This is pressure groups, right? Act in concert, apply pressure to get their demands fulfilled. As simple as that, right? I will write a simple definition of pressure group and we'll start ahead with that. So, what are pressure groups? Pressure groups are a group of people acting in concert on government, applying pressure on government to get its demand demands fulfilled, right? To get its demand fulfilled. Very simple to understand, not really hard as such, right? It is not really hard to understand. So, pressure groups. So, pressure groups. These are pressure groups. The pressure groups were called as invisible empires by finers. Pressure groups were explained as invisible empires by finer. I always give you example, or I always explain pressure groups or things controlling state as like this: the meme of strings, the meme of puppets. Right, one puppet is controlled by some other puppet. This other puppet is controlled by some other puppet. So this is what this is what I always explain: invisible empires. They are not visible, they are not to be seen, but exclude they exclude a lot of influence on government policies and all those things, right? So invisible empires, what does it mean by invisible empires? It means it means they do not hold any political offices. They are not really seen in public, right? Yet they hold power. They hold real power, right? They hold real power. To give you an example, I will give you example of, right, pressure group, let's say of uh, caste pressure groups, right? Khap panchayats. Recently, if you have gone through the news, recently some panchayats of Rajasthan has banned mobile phone for women, right? So who are they to ban mobile phone for women? But they can and they could, even though they don't hold any political offices, they could effectively get a group of citizens out of a very essential service, right? So they hold real power. Similarly, religious pressure groups, right? Like akhadas, Mahant akhada, right? Adi Shankaracharya's akhada. These religious pressure groups have a lot of power in them, right? They can mobilize people. So even though they don't hold any political offices, pressure groups have a lot of power with them. I will give you American example as well. Pressure groups are prevalent everywhere. So I'll give you one example of India. One example we'll understand from USA. Right? In US, there is pressure group. Very prominent pressure groups are there. Number one is IPAC. IPAC is basically Israeli lobby in US. Right? Then there is Hindu Indian. There is pressure groups known as Friends of India. Friends of India. This is a group of NRIs who lobby for India. Right? So these kind of pressure groups are also there. They don't hold real power. They don't hold real political offices, but they have real power. They can do things. They can get things done. Right? These are pressure groups. If they don't hold political offices, but they have power, where do they use this power? Right? What are the functions 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 of pressure group? What are the functions of pressure group? What are the functions of pressure group? Function of pressure group is interest articulation. Interest articulation according to structural functional model of Almond and Powell. Right? According to structural functional model of Almond and Powell, function of pressure group is to articulate interest. Right? But this function of interest articulation, interest aggregation is somehow performed by political parties and pressure groups. Right? There is functional overlapping between political parties and pressure groups. Both are instrument of collective mobilization and political socialization. Both perform this function. Right? And you see political parties are somewhat and somehow have emerged out of pressure groups. Right? For example, 2011-12, there was big movement in India known as India against corruption. Colloquially, general terms in general terms, it was known as Anna Hazare movement for Lokpal. Right? India against corruption movement for Lokpal. Now, in this movement by Anna Hazare, in this movement for Lokpal, you see political legends and political parties emerging. Right? This was a pressure groups. India against corruption was a social movement and a pressure group as well. So India against corruption was a pressure group, and you see Aam Aadmi Party emerging out of it. Right? Former Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal emerged out of India against corruption. Manish Sisodia emerged out of India against corruption. Right? Kumar Vishwas India emerged out of India against corruption. So political parties and pressure groups have a lot of overlapping. Right? That is the idea. That is the idea. So political parties and pressure groups are somewhat related to each other. If you if you understand Indian national movement closely, Indian National Congress, Indian National Congress was a pressure group to start with. Later, it became a party. right? Later it became a party. So this is pressure group. What is pressure group? Pressure group are invisible empires. They hold real power, but they don't have political offices. Invisible, why? Because they even though they don't hold political offices, there is no optics. There is no, they are not to be seen. Yet they have power. It is a concept like deep state, state within state, the state which controls state, right? Okay. Then going ahead, going ahead, there is a similar terms with respect to pressure groups. We have to understand the difference between pressure groups and interest group as well, right? So difference between pressure group and interest group, right? Pressure group and interest group, right? To see, to see, to take an umbrella view, to take a bird's eye view, right? Interest group is a more broader term, right? Interest group is a broader term. Pressure group is a sub part of a uh, sub part of subset of interest group, right? This is interest group and this is pressure group. Interest group simply means a group of people having similar interests. Example, environmental pressure group, environmental interest group, not pressure group, interest group. Or for example, animal rights interest group, right? Or interest groups against, let's say, corruption, right? Group of people having similar interest. But what is the difference between interest group and pressure group? It is the component of acting in concert, the component of applying pressure. And how do you apply pressure? You apply pressure by lobbying, right? We will understand different methods of applying pressure as well, but for now just understand lobbying. What is lobbying? Lobbying is basically to lobby for a particular cause, right? People lobby for political tickets, people lobby for a lot of things. Like lobbying is applying pressure, right? Using your social connection, using your economic connections, using your economic social influence, and to get something that you want to have, right? So so the difference between pressure group and interest group is like this. Interest group is a more broader term whereby group of people have similar interest. Pressure group on the other hand is a subset of interest group, whereby pressure group actually work on it, right? They act in concert, they apply pressure, right? But still they are very similar terms. And interest group, while having interest, may not apply pressure. Pressure groups always apply pressure, right? Another distinction is that pressure group is a term used by traditionalist scholars, and interest group as a term is used by behavioralist scholar behavioralist scholar, right? Behavioralist scholar. Why behavioralists use this term? Because they think that pressure or acting in concert, applying pressure, acting in concert, or lobbying, these three things can be done by political parties as well, and social movement as well. So that is why they try to use group the term interest group, because behavioralists want to systematize political science. They want particular terms for particular things, right? So for pressure groups, for pressure group, behavioralists use interest group because they want particularness in political science. They think pressure application, lobbying, or acting in concert can be done by political parties and social movement as well, right? The next we have to understand, the next we have to see, right? We have seen what are pressure groups, we have seen what is the function of pressure group, we have seen what is the difference between pressure group and interest group. Now we have to see how pressure group apply pressure. Pressure on whom? Pressure on government. How pressure group apply pressure? Lobbying, I as I explained you, lobbying in US is a standard practice, right? Lobbying in US is a standard practice. There are lobbying agencies in Europe, in US, right? People give money to lobbying agencies to lobby for them. Recently, news came that when India started bombing Pakistan and India was on the ascendant side in Operation Sundur, Pakistan spent around 10 million on lobbying to stop the war. Around 10 million. So what is lobbying? Lobbying is applying pressure to agencies, or lobbying in general terms is even easily understood as using your social and economic influence on legislature, on political offices to get your thing done, right? To get your demand fulfilled. It is basically using your social and economic influence to get your demands fulfilled. Then protests are there. Then then they write newspaper articles, they publish newspapers, they don't write newspaper articles, they also write newspaper articles, but they publish media, right? Newspapers, social media, right? Traditional media as well. Then they can do strikes, right? Strikes, pocketing, all those things, right? Even dharna, or farm protest, as we have seen, Shinebaum protest we have seen. So all these are just instrument used by pressure groups to to apply pressure on government, right? Apply pressure on government. So this is who, what, why, and how of pressure group. We have to understand, in political science, when we write answers, we always have to write theories, right? We always have to write theories, so that there is theoretical background with everything with respect to we write, right? So the next will of course understand theories of pressure groups. What are different theories of pressure groups, and who gave theories of pressure groups? It was Gabriel Allman. Gabriel Allman, in his book Comparative Politics, a Developmental Approach. In his book Comparative Politics, a Developmental Approach, classified pressure groups in four types, right? Classified pressure groups in in four types. Four types. The first kind of pressure groups, as explained by Allman, was institutional. Institutional. What do you think institutional pressure group will mean? Right? Institutional pressure group basically mean a a pressure group which is part of government institution, part of government institutions, right? Or well established institutions. For example, if you don't know, is lobby in India is very strong, right? One of the strongest lobby in India is is lobby. So institutional pressure groups can be like is pressure group, right? Or army men wanting something. So this is also effective pressure groups. Effective pressure groups having considerable influence. These institutional pressure groups have have high influence on policy making. If you want to get something done and if you want to apply pressure, you apply pressure through these pressure groups, right? These pressure groups, especially in developing countries where state is overdeveloped, a lot of power is with bureaucracy. In that situation, the most important pressure group become institutional pressure group, right? The second categorization as given by Almond was associational. Associational pressure groups. What do you think associational pressure groups will mean? Right? Association. Associational. You association by voluntary decision, and you add and you associate with a particular interest group. These are voluntary, right? You want to be associated with them. They are driven by interest. They are by interest. Driven by interest. For example, environmental pressure groups, right? Environmental pressure groups. Anyone who is moderately related to environment, anyone who wants to do good for environment, that person can be associated with associational pressure group. There is no stopping for that person, right? Anyone and anyone can join such pressure groups. For example, if someone is animal right activist, he can join PETA, right? The same person can join people for animals, PFA, right? These are associational pressure group. These are advocacy groups. You join by your own interest. Then non-associational pressure groups. What is non-associational pressure groups? Right? Their membership. Their membership is closed. You can get into a pressure group by blood only. By blood only. Right? Right? For example, caste associations. Caste associations. Or or even regional associations. Regional, not regional, religious associations. You can be a member of these pressure groups only by being born in them. So non-associational pressure groups are parochial, and they work on primordial identities, right? Loyalty is a big factor in these pressure groups. Loyalty. The fourth kind of pressure group is anomic, right? Anomic, anomic, without name, without name, right? Anomic pressure groups means highly energized group of people coming together. Example, mob lynching. Or if you have seen protest on something like, let's say, right, protest on something like, if you have seen that right? Afwa, I am not able to remember Afwa's translation in Hindi, in English, but Afwa, there is Afwa which goes around, that rumors, right? Rumors are there that some people have come in our area in in disguise of monks, of sadhus, and they will kidnap people, right? In this situation, even if a normal sadhu goes through that area, people will think that this is a children picker, and people will kill them, kill that person, right? So there is a rumor, people are energized, they don't, mob don't need the name, they go there and they kill that person. This is mob lynching. The pressure group does not have any name, it does not have any association, it does not have any institution. It just creates by itself, right? As Hannah Arendt says, it is sui generis, it is unique, it just happens. Some person posts something on social media about particular religion, people get angry on it, people come on roads. Nobody has asked them to come on roads, they come by themselves. This is the idea. Economic pressure groups like mobs, mob lynching, like crowd behavior. Then the second theory about pressure group was given by Jean Blondel. Blondel, and he has classified pressure groups, right? He has classified pressure groups as developing the countries in developing, pressure groups in developing countries and pressure groups in developed countries. John Blondel has addressed limitations of Ullmann's model, right? He says that what is the limitation with Ullmann's model, that it is static, right? It does not take into account evolution of pressure groups. He says that he says that pressure groups and nature of politics is continuously evolving, and to show evolution he has made this diagram whereby he says developing developing pressure groups, countries, pressure groups in developing countries and pressure group in developed countries, right? In this direction, from developing to developed countries, pressure groups move. He says that in developing countries, pressure groups are non-associational, right? They are based on blood, and he says in developed countries, pressure groups are associational. They are advocacy groups, right? In developing countries, right? Membership on membership, he says, he gives comparative analysis between developing and developed countries. Then on functions, he says pressure groups of developing countries are protective. What does this mean? This means pressure groups of developing countries want to protect interest of its members, right? Protective, protective protection of interest. And in developed countries, function of pressure group is promotional, right? It is promotional. It goes for wider advocacy, right? So these were theories of pressure groups given by Almond. This was classification of pressure groups in institutional, associational, non-associational, and anomic. And evolution happened from non-associational to associational, protective to promotional. So this was pressure group. I hope you understood pressure groups. From the next lecture, we'll start with social movements. Right? Social movements. I hope this helped. Thank you.